The project du jour is to lay a floor in our Versatube carport. All right, so let's pretend that you don't have the remnants of a junk old Ford in your shed or carport or whatever you're trying to put a floor in. Here's the plan. We're gonna lay 2 layers of 7/16 OSB overlapping the seams, giving us a 7/8 inch thick floor. Should be more than enough. Now a note about our starting point. This is about 4 inches of gravel with a vapor barrier below that, with compacted dirt below that. This has been standing roughly 9 months and it stays pretty dry in here. I have a little bit of splash that comes in on this corner that I'm aware of, and I have a little bit of leakage right at the seam that runs down this wall, and I put a French drain in between these 2 buildings because we do have a general grade kind of going this way, but most of the water runs around. But what I'm saying is, I'm using OSB because I think it will be pretty dry. It was $13 a sheet relative to $43 a sheet for pressure treated plywood. There's a couple of other reasons to use OSB, but we'll get into those later. All right, we're gonna start back here. I'm gonna run our first 2 courses along this wall. We're gonna work that way. We're gonna run 8 feet and 4 feet. I'm gonna give this a quick rake. You'll see all the dust that gets kicked up, and that is one of several reasons that we're gonna go ahead and put a floor down, because it's a lot of dust, man. A lot. And I'm doing a lot more than just parking cars at this point. Let's start laying something down so it feels like we're accomplishing something, please. All right, we're roughly gonna start at center because I got a little knee wall for part of the garage with a cinder block foundation. I'm gonna kind of square it off of that. All right, the dog is approving of the first layer. That took basically no time at all. All I'm doing right now is coming off of our metal bottom rail out the distance of the cinder blocks, trying to keep it within, within an 1/8 of an inch at this point. I have a little bit of gap. I have a small gap on this side, a small gap on that side. That was expected. That will let any water run straight past that to the French drain. Things will run down. We're in good shape. I was gonna go tight wall to wall, and I didn't feel good about it. A little bit of a gap made me feel better. Just in case water gets in here, it'll run off to the gravel. Gravel will run off to the drain. Out of the building it goes. Now we gotta get our second row in here, and then we can start to overlap our seams, because right now we do have a decent amount of potato chipping and rocking and all that stuff. And this is why we're doing 2 layers of thinner material, so that it sort of bends to the contours of the uneven floor, right? If you have a thicker material, it's more likely to try to, ride over those gaps. And what I want to do is have this kind of flow and do its own thing, and then we'll put another layer on top that will kind of hold it right there so it won't rock and move, but it will sort of form a little bit to the uneven ground, because, we're just hobbyists here. We just needed to be better. Are pretty manageable. They ring in at about 40 pounds a piece. I think possibly 43 pounds if you're that worried about it. This is kind of the tricky part, because once we get the second layer going, it'll really tie the room together. But right now, we're lining up some wonky stuff on some uneven floor. That'll do. Next. Can I go there? Can I move your ball so I can put this there, please? Can I? Okay, well, I'll throw it for you. Ready? Next. This is where it starts to get interesting. For the next course, I've moved 6 inches in and 6 inches up. I've landed that right there. I'm gonna put 1 screw in here, and that will be my pivot point, and I will line up our long line, and then we'll go from there. Using 1-inch screws. All right, we got 1 screw in down at that end. Got to get this line to 6 inches, then we'll worry about lining up the rest here. All right, gang, we are roughly 2/3 there with laying the boards. I know that because there are 24 boards on the ground and we need 36 total. The thing about that is my truck is now empty and has no boards. So, I just found out last night that my Home Depot is open till 11. Granted, no pro desk, only self-checkout, and you gotta go the long way around, but there's no people there, so I'll take it. That gives me enough time to go get one more truckload of lumber, and we got a plan. I'll explain the plan here when we get back, because time is of the essence. It's reasonably late at this point, but that's all right. It's Friday night. Friday night, wow! Made it back from Home Depot. They had one of the two things I needed. They had both of the things I needed, but I couldn't get to one. So we got 5 gallons of stain, so I can introduce you to the plan before I introduce you to the products. The plan now is to go ahead and stain the 2/3 of this, let it dry overnight, and then we'll just back the old Mercury up and put it over here, finish our project. I did build this super sturdy ramp. Home Depot, they did have this stain, which is pretty groovy, penetrating well. I definitely wanted an oil-based product. The other part of the story is I couldn't get any more OSB because I needed a guy to drive a forklift and kind of... But the funny part about it is at this hour, like 10:30 at night, a half hour before they close, the night shift is on and they're all gonna just restock anyway. But man, there's almost nobody in Home Depot, but the people that are there are almost all employees. But if you try to make eye contact with them, they just scatter like rats. They're just gone down some aisle. All right, gang, well, we have a few minutes together. First things first, if you're staining your deck, this is not the method. A roller is not the tool you want. But it is very good for OSB because OSB has a decent amount of texture. Now, let's talk about OSB. Why did we choose OSB? Well, OSB, the way the strands are rated, they crisscross each other in every single direction. And that sort of puts wood fiber in tension across the entire surface. As opposed to, say, plywood, which has plies of wood. Flat veneers on top. They crisscross their grain, but it's at 90 degrees. Don't let pictures from Etsy convince you that this is suddenly like a refined artsy surface. This is a home improvement show for like C students, you know? I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder. OSB is rated exposure 1. We can skip the science on that, but I can tell you right now, it means that it'll survive getting wet for a while. Basically, you know, if it gets rained on during construction, it's not going to suddenly implode or turn into a potato chip based on that alone. However, you know, like all other wood products, you want to keep them dry, and if they get wet, you want to give them room to dry. With the stain here, all I'm trying to do is put one more layer of protection on it while making it look a little bit nicer. Oh, it's early. Pretty morning though. Let's get the old truck fired up. We gotta go to Home Depot again. We were there way less than 12 hours ago, but this time, oh no. And hopefully they've pulled that rack of OSB down overnight so that we can get what we need. Otherwise, we're gonna have to stand there and wait for them. Got a couple little Brown Dog coffee in my new Goog's Hot Dogs mug. If you're ever in Amsterdam, New York, try Goog's Hot Dog. Here we go. Sun's barely getting up there. We got a new truckload of lumber, which is everything we need to get finished. I got a little more stain just in case, and I made it in and out of Home Depot, well, early enough that I beat the weekend warriors. First of all, if you're pushing 600 to 1,000 pounds of lumber on a cart, dodging those people that have no idea what they're doing, where they're going, and they're looking at their phones, and they usually have some sort of puffy little dog on a 10-foot leash that you're trying not to run over. Weekends are the worst at big home improvement stores, but no worries, we got her done. So now, I think for this morning, I'm gonna try to move this car back onto what we already have finished in here. It actually looks really nice. The stain's pretty dry. It says 24 hours, but we're gonna go ahead and push that down to less than 12. It'll be fine. And if we succeed at getting this car back here and kind of jimmied onto the finished part, I'm gonna take a break. And I'm actually gonna take one of these other cars, do some R&R and hit a car show. And then we'll come back and finish up this afternoon. You got to take a minute for yourself too. Here we go. I'm pushing the heavy stuff on through. Rain Dog, feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme, something, it's about my turn. Ready. There we go. Whoa. Not the most efficient plan, but it'll work. Will we make it? Barely, I don't know. Here we go. All right. Not bad. Come take a look. Come on. I was gonna turn this car sideways so I could stain all that. But at this point, you know, it's Saturday. I'm feeling lazy. We'll stain around that. But now we have enough room to finish our project with the rest of that wood. So I'm gonna do the right thing, have a cup of coffee, clean up this old 54 Chevy that used to be right here because we got it out anyway. Take it to a car show, see if I can find a hot dog or something. All right, it's the afternoon. We made it to the car show. I got a pulled pork sandwich and a hot dog for me and a hot dog for the dog. Now back to where we were and what we were doing. Man, it's nice out. We've made it this far and we've got the Mercury pushed back in place. We've got a truckload of lumber. Let's wrap it up. Oh, may as well, while we're here, look at this. So you can see the stuff that's not attached is moving around pretty well. But as soon as we start hitting the stuff that's all tied together, you know, as soon as it gets unscrewed, then it starts to move. What I'm saying is, I think my theory of 2 layers is very sound. Time to move some more heavy stuff, I think. All right, so I made a fresh cup of coffee because I got to do some thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. This area right here, this last stretch, because I don't have any doors on this place, although I do plan to build some at some point, that's a problem for future me. Considering we don't have them right now, this does stay dry. This gets a little bit of the rain bounce back in. But if we get gale force, anything, it's gonna hit this area. Well, I just happen to have 3/4 pressure treated ply right there. So maybe we'll rip this down to make our last section here and work from that point. I don't know, how many do I have? This just took me 20 minutes to set up, and that's fine. The thing is, I have a table saw. I haven't seen it in 2 years. It's tucked up behind the garage somewhere, covered up and wrapped in plastic, which is fine, but, you know, I either gotta find a way to set it up so I can use it, or I gotta sell it, right? Do you guys have stuff like that? Like things you know are useful, but then you never take the time to dig out right when you need them. Now that said, the saw I have is a portable contractor saw, which you take a dangerous tool like a table saw and you make it unstable and very wobbly with no runoff table, and it becomes significantly more dangerous. This ply would likely not run through it without just knocking the whole thing over. But maybe, you know, now that we're gonna have some space and we're gonna do some semi-permanent tool locating in here eventually, maybe we need to find a place for it and a way to stabilize it with a runoff table so that we can use it in times that we need to use it. It's almost more bothersome that I know I have it and it's still not useful to me. So instead, we're using this very tired DeWalt covered in spiders with a blade I don't think has ever been changed. So we're about there. I'm pretty happy with the pressure treated final step there. I think I'll do a little threshold that ties the room together, maybe some mending plates on the far side, but I don't have those right now. But at this point, we are ready to stain it. Just the fact that I can walk around here and not be completely covered in dust just from kicking it up from the gravel is a huge, huge win already. Yeah, let's jam some stain on this thing and keep going, because once that's done, we still have to undo all that. But let's pretend we didn't ignore that. It's sort of, there's a little bounce to it, but it's not moving very much at all. All right, let's break it down. Time, dollars, cents, lessons learned. Recap. We had a gravel floor with a vapor barrier underneath that. We laid 2 layers of 7/16 OSB right over the top. We overlapped the seams so that we could screw them all together so they become one big floating floor, basically. Time-wise, if we cut out my trips to the lumber yard and the amount of time it took me to move my disorganized junk out, we're talking, I think 4 to 6 hours max. Laying it down, screwing it down, cutting the pieces that needed to be cut, and then staining it. That's not bad. You're kind of a rotational mess like I am, and you have a lot of junk to move and maybe, you know, something really heavy that doesn't roll very well, well, you know, more time. I didn't have the time to have the lumberyard deliver, and like even Home Depot will deliver for $79. That was my plan, but their time window put me right into what appears to be on the weather machine, rain. So I just went ahead and did it myself, and that took me 3 trips. All in, I'm probably close to 8 to 10 hours. That's moving everything out, making all the trips to the hardware store, getting it all done, and I still have to move everything back in, which is probably another 3 hours. But I'm gonna do that methodically and find a better system. All right, what did it cost? It's 2022, and this 7/16 OSB cost me $13 a sheet plus tax. Then I put about, $15 worth of screw hardware in all of this. And stain is pretty expensive. It runs about $40 a gallon. Now I got exterior grade oil-based stain, and I got a 5-gallon bucket because I'm also gonna do my porch soon. So roughly, you know, another $150 for the hardware and stain. You're looking at $750, and this is a 24 by 24 garage. While $700 is not cheap, it's also the cheapest version of this that I could figure out. Some of you out there may be saying, well, that's not gonna last. And I don't know, I think it will. If I didn't think it was gonna last at least a few years, I would not have done it. We're gonna see, and you know, we're gonna keep doing episodes in here so you'll see how it wears, and I'll try to keep you updated on it because it's a big deal. Now I do have a vapor barrier under 4 inches of gravel, and it stays dry in here. I've had this building up for 9 months. I know that already, so that is kind of an advantage. If this is the kind of thing you're gonna do on a dirt shed, you definitely need to do ground contact rated plywood. The reason I chose OSB over plywood was not only cost, but also the way that they're made. Plywood on occasion does have voids, plus the oriented strands being very random make this stuff kind of strong in all directions, where plywood is strong mostly in 2 directions, the long way and the wide way. This is in theory a little stronger and has 0 voids in all directions. I know some people out there are thinking, do it right the first time, but for us here at Let's Make It Better, doing it right the first time means fitting our timeline, our budget, and our needs. And this is fitting our needs, it fit the budget, and it fit the timeline. We're not financing this, and I'm not waiting 2 or 3 years to save up the money for a concrete slab or something else. This is just real life, and I would rather get by with this and spend my money on things like that. For us here, well, we made it better. So this is gonna be a much more enjoyable place to work. It's not dusty, I'm not gonna be laying in gravel, and I am just as curious as you are about how long this is gonna last. Anyway, thanks for watching Let's Make It Better. Good luck on your projects out there. We'll see you next time.